There are moments in life when you stumble upon something so simple, so small, yet it changes everything. For me, it happened at night. I changed just one thing before bed. No pills, no fancy gadgets, no expensive treatments, and within just days, my blood pressure numbers were different. My doctor looked at me with surprise. My family noticed I seemed calmer, lighter, and I thought to myself, why didn't I do this sooner? If you've been living with high blood pressure, you already know it can feel like an invisible shadow following you everywhere. Maybe you've tried watching your salt. Maybe you've been walking more. Maybe you've been taking your medication exactly as told. Yet the numbers just don't seem to move much. I understand that frustration. I understand that quiet fear that lives in the back of your mind every time you put that cuff on your arm, wondering if this time the reading will be too high, or if one day it might lead to something far worse. That's why I'm sharing this with you today. Not as a doctor, though medical professionals play a vital role, but as someone who knows what it feels like to want just one thing to finally make a difference. And here's the thing. Sometimes the answer is hiding in the simplest part of your day, or in this case, your night. Stay with me, because the change I made is something you can start tonight, and it might just be the gentle push your body has been waiting for. Number 1, the silent burden of high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a strange enemy. It doesn't usually cause pain you can see or feel, yet it quietly strains your heart, your blood vessels, your kidneys, even your brain. Many of us ignore it because we feel fine, and by the time we feel unwell, it may have already been at work for years. For seniors, this is even trickier because we're dealing with other aches, medications, and health concerns, and it's easy to think, well, maybe this is just part of getting older. But it's not just a number on a machine. It's a risk factor that can turn a peaceful morning into a medical emergency. I've spoken to friends who were perfectly healthy one day and in the hospital the next because their pressure spiked without warning. That's why I decided, no matter how small a change might seem, I would give it a chance if it could help my numbers come down. And I want to be clear, this isn't about magic solutions or giving up on what your doctor recommends. It's about finding ways to support your health naturally, alongside medical guidance. It's about giving your body small advantages so it doesn't have to fight so hard. And for me, that advantage came from something I never thought would make such a difference, changing how I prepared myself for sleep. Number 2. The nighttime habit that changed everything. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Your nights are just as important as your days when it comes to blood pressure. For years, I thought as long as I ate right and moved a bit during the day, I'd be fine. But nights, I treated them carelessly. I'd watch TV until my eyes hurt, drink tea too late, keep the lights on, sometimes even check my phone one last time before bed. I didn't realize that my heart, my nervous system, and my blood vessels never really got a chance to calm down. The change I made was simple. I created a true wind-down routine, one that told my body it was safe to rest. I dimmed the lights an hour before bed. I turned off the screens, no glowing phones, no TV chatter. I took a few slow breaths and actually let my shoulders drop. And here's the key. I went to bed at the same time every night, without excuses. It sounds so ordinary, but what happened next shocked me. Within a few nights, I started waking up feeling less tense. My mornings didn't begin with that tightness in my chest or that racing heartbeat when I got out of bed. And when I checked my blood pressure, the numbers were lower, not dramatically at first, but enough to notice. Over the next week, they kept improving. It was as if my body finally realized it could stand down at night instead of being on high alert until morning. Number 3, why night matters more than you think. Here's what most people don't realize. When you sleep, your blood pressure is supposed to dip. This nighttime dip gives your heart a chance to rest after a long day of pumping blood through your body. But for many seniors, this dip doesn't happen anymore. Stress, irregular sleep, and too much stimulation before bed can keep the body in a slightly tense, alert state, even while you're asleep. This means your heart never gets that deep rest it needs. When I made that single nighttime change, letting my evenings become slower, darker, and calmer, it was like I gave my heart permission to relax again. And if you've ever watched a grandchild sleep, you know how peaceful a resting body can be. That's what I wanted for myself, not just more years in my life, but more life in my years. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to buy anything fancy. You don't need to follow a complicated program. You just need to be intentional about your night. Because sometimes it's not the huge changes that save us. It's the small, consistent ones we finally take seriously. Number 4. How evening stress creeps into your blood pressure. I didn't realize it until much later, but the way I spent my evenings was silently raising my blood pressure without me even knowing. Think about it. All day, we face little tensions, paying bills, dealing with aches and pains, maybe worrying about children or grandchildren, hearing the news talk about things that unsettle us. By the time the evening comes, many of us think, now I can finally relax. But here's the problem. What we call relaxing is often still overstimulating our body. I used to sit down and watch the late news or a crime drama before bed. My mind would be racing, thinking about the world's problems, about sad stories, about fictional characters in trouble. My body didn't know the difference between real danger and TV danger. It just responded with a little spike of adrenaline. And adrenaline is not something your heart wants right before you try to sleep. Then there was the phone. I'd scroll through pictures, read messages, maybe see something on social media that upset me or made me think too much. My eyes were absorbing that bright blue light, which tells your brain, stay awake, stay alert. The trouble is, your brain then tells your body to keep your blood pressure up just in case. It's a survival mechanism. But when it happens night after night, your cardiovascular system never truly rests. I remember one night after a long day, I sat on the couch watching the clock, realizing I was still tense at 11 p.m. I checked my blood pressure just out of curiosity, and it was as high as it had been that morning. That's when it clicked for me. The way I end my day matters just as much as the way I start it. My heart wasn't the only thing working hard. My entire nervous system was still in daytime mode because I never told it to slow down. When I finally began replacing these habits with a calmer, quieter routine, the difference was almost immediate. I no longer went to bed with my shoulders tight and my mind racing. My body began to get the signal. You're safe now. You can rest. And when your body believes it's safe, blood pressure naturally begins to lower. Number 5. Creating a night that heals you, not hurts you. Here's where the magic happened for me, and it can happen for you too. I made a promise to myself, no matter what the day brought, I would give myself at least 1 hour at night that was purely for winding down. No interruptions, no just one more show, no just one quick call. It was my hour to send my body a clear message. We're done for the day. Let's go to rest together. I started with light. I dimmed the lamps so the room looked softer, almost like candlelight. It felt more peaceful instantly, less like the middle of the day and more like a gentle invitation to slow down. If you've ever sat outside in the evening and watched the sunset, you know how your body naturally begins to calm as the light fades. I simply recreated that indoors. Then I swapped the television for something quieter. Some nights I'd put on soft instrumental music. Other nights I'd read a light-hearted book or a faith-based devotional. Nothing intense, just something that made me feel grounded and grateful. I can't tell you how much that simple choice changed my nights. I also started doing what I call letting go breathing. I'd sit comfortably, close my eyes, and breathe in slowly. Then breathe out as if I was releasing every worry I carried that day. With each exhale, I imagined tension leaving my body like a balloon drifting away. Sometimes I'd think about moments from my childhood, quiet summer nights, my mother humming in the kitchen, the sound of crickets in the dark, memories that reminded me of safety and calm. Within days of making these changes, I noticed 2 powerful things. First, I fell asleep faster and stayed asleep longer. No more tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. Second, my morning blood pressure readings began to improve, not by magic, but because my heart and blood vessels were finally getting a nightly rest they hadn't had in years. Here's the truth, you can't control every part of your health, but you can control the atmosphere you create for your nights. When you make them peaceful, predictable, and truly restful, you give your body a fighting chance to heal. For me, that one change at night wasn't just about numbers on a monitor. It was about reclaiming the quiet my body had been craving for decades. Number 6. The little things that made the biggest difference. One of the most surprising truths I discovered during this journey was that it's often the smallest, most consistent actions the kind that almost feel too simple to matter, that can create the biggest changes in our health. I had always imagined that lowering my blood pressure would require a major lifestyle overhaul. I pictured strict diets, intense exercise regimens, or a shelf full of new supplements. But the reality? It began with something so much gentler, so much more doable. It began with being more intentional about my evenings, just the hours before I went to sleep. When I finally paused and really observed my nights, I realized how many little habits were quietly sabotaging my rest and raising my stress without me even noticing. I would reach for snacks without thinking, crackers, cheese, or something salty, because they were easy and comforting. I never considered how much sodium I was adding to my day right before bed. Once I became aware, I started making a mindful shift. If I truly felt hungry, I chose something lighter, like a banana, which is naturally calming because of its magnesium and potassium, or a small handful of unsalted nuts that didn't leave me bloated or restless. I cut out late-night caffeine completely, no matter how tempting that just one more cup of tea or coffee seemed, and I skipped sugary desserts that gave me a burst of energy at the exact time my body needed to slow down. Almost immediately, I noticed my digestion felt easier, and I didn't wake up with that heavy, sluggish feeling that used to follow me into the morning. My nights felt calmer. My mornings felt cleaner. Then I turned my attention to the environment where I slept. I lowered the temperature in my bedroom slightly, realizing that a cooler room gently encourages the body to slip into deeper sleep cycles. I swapped my bedding for something softer and more breathable. I even placed a small lavender sachet on my nightstand, not because I believed it was some magical cure, but because the gentle scent reminded me to take slow, deep breaths and let go of the day's tension. That one whiff became my nightly signal. It's time to rest, it's time to release, but perhaps the most unexpected change came from something purely mental: gratitude. Each night, before closing my eyes, I named 3 things from the day I was thankful for. Some nights my list was full of big blessings: a call from an old friend, a good doctor's report, or a special visit from family. Other nights, it was the tiniest moments: a perfectly warm cup of tea, the sound of rain on my window, or the comfort of my favorite blanket. This little ritual shifted my entire mindset. I went from ending my day with thoughts of worry to ending it with a heart full of peace. And when the mind is at peace, the body follows. I came to realize that lowering blood pressure at night isn't about chasing a single big solution. It's about creating an atmosphere that whispers calm into every corner of your being. It's about sending your heart, your mind, and your nervous system the same message: you're safe, you can rest now. And over time, that peace becomes your new normal. Number 7, a lesson from others who tried it. When I saw the difference these small evening changes made in my own life, I couldn't keep it to myself. I began sharing my experience with friends, some my age, some older, and what they told me afterwards was nothing short of inspiring. Mary, a dear friend who's 72, had struggled with high blood pressure for over a decade. She had resigned herself to restless, uneasy nights, chalking it up to just part of getting old. When I told her about my wind-down routine, she decided to give it a try. She dimmed her lights an hour before bed, swapped the late-night news for a cup of warm chamomile tea, and ended her evenings with a quiet prayer. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. Mary's voice was practically bubbling over with joy. "I don't know if it's just in my head," she said, "but my blood pressure is lower, and I feel lighter. I'm waking up without that tightness in my chest. I feel safe again at night." Then there was Thomas, a retired schoolteacher who had a long-standing habit of falling asleep with the TV on. He never realized that even in sleep, his brain was still reacting to the noise, the flashing lights, and the constant stream of information. After hearing my story, he decided to break that habit. He turned off the TV completely, replacing it with soft classical music for half an hour before bed, then silence for the rest of the night. Within days, his morning blood pressure readings were the best they'd been in years. He told me it wasn't just the numbers, it was the way he felt when he woke up, clearer, lighter, more alive. These stories taught me something I will never forget. While each of us is unique, our bodies all understand the same language of rest. Whether you're 60, 70, or 80, your body still responds to the same timeless signals: soft light, gentle quiet, and a steady rhythm into sleep. We can't control every detail of our health, but we can absolutely control the way we prepare our hearts and minds for the night ahead. That is power we hold in our own hands, starting tonight. Number 8. A hopeful ending and invitation. I know from personal experience that living with high blood pressure can feel like an endless uphill climb. Many of you have tried medications, diet changes, exercise routines, and maybe you've felt your heart sink when progress was slow. But I want you to remember this. Your body is still listening to you. Every gentle, loving choice you make for it matters. The beauty of what I've shared today is that it doesn't require extreme effort or overwhelming change. It simply asks for a little care, a little intention, and the willingness to end your day with calm. When I changed just this one thing, making my evenings a sanctuary instead of a rush, I gave my heart, my blood vessels, and my nervous system the rest they had been begging for, and my body thanked me in return, with steadier numbers, more energy, and a peace I hadn't felt in years. I want you to imagine something. Tonight, instead of carrying the day's weight into bed, you set it down. You dim the lights, take a deep breath, and let your mind drift to gratitude. You give yourself permission to sleep deeply, without interruption. And then, in the morning, you wake up not to a body full of tension, but to one that feels calm, steady, and ready for the day. This is not just about blood pressure. It's about reclaiming your nights so that your days can shine brighter. And I want you to try it. Just 1 week, 7 nights of intentional peace before bed. Then come back here and tell me your story in the comments. Someone out there may read your words and find the courage to start their own change, one that could save their life. And if this message touched you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Faith Wisdom. Here we believe that every season of life, no matter your age, can still be full of health, joy, and hope. Together, let's create a community that keeps learning, growing, and caring for one another, one peaceful night at a time.